Hi, my friends, and welcome into today's episode of Forte Catholic. I'm so glad that you are here. Allison Sullivan and I have a great conversation about the trip that my wife and I took to North Carolina to go to the Game of Favorites wedding. Our friends Peter and Yenza got married to each other, and we met a lot of our Catholic internet friends over there. We talked about meeting people from the internet in person, how that experience goes. We also talked about a different mass than the wedding, but in a similar location. One of the longest homilies and strangest and funniest masses, unintentionally, that I've ever been to. We hope that you enjoyed today's conversation. If you do, please hit subscribe wherever you are watching or listening. Enjoy. Hello there, and welcome into Forte Catholic. I am Taylor Schroll, and that is Allison Sullivan. Allison, hello.
Hello, Taylor Schroll.
We finally did an episode together that you were proud of.
Yes.
It took us 8 years.
No, there's
you finally
been more
posted
than just
about it online.
one.
You were like, we did a holy and loving
look
episode.
At Taylor being nice.
And you're like, okay, I'll tell people publicly I'm a part of this.
I'm rewarding you. I'm coercing you to be nice to me more often.
Well, we'll see how it goes. I don't know if you'll be sharing this one, but and not because it won't be as nice and holy, which I don't think it will, just because that was a really nice and holy episode.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of story today. I just came back from the Game of Favorites wedding, so I think you might not share this one, not because I'm mean, but just because you're not the center of attention for this episode.
It's detailed Taylor. Yeah, right. Taylor's life.
So I've prepped you
dive.
with some I don't know why the word tertiary is coming in. I think, which is like third, but you can't be third when there's only two of us. But I kind of think the story is the star of the show today.
Okay.
I'm second. And
sure.
You're the tertiary
That's
part
fine.
of this episode. So I just came back like hours ago from the Game of Favorites wedding.
Yeah.
You were actually a topic of conversation.
Oh, really?
Throughout this weekend.
Well, how about that?
A couple of times. Because of your misunderstanding of the Game of Favorites.
I thought I was fantastic.
I think you were very entertaining, but I also remember muting a lot to explain things to you, to ask your questions like along the lines of WTF is going on. I think my experience of you on Game of Favorites is probably different than the audience's experience of you on Game of Favorites.
Probably. So I've played twice. Once was with you, and once you abandoned me because I was like, I will only do this if you're there. I feel like there are
I never agreed to do that second one, so I don't know how I abandoned you. You just agreed to do it on your own.
Because things that are technical and online are scary for me, Taylor. And
Says
so
the TikTok star.
I know that's ironic. I realize that.
It's not ironic. It's wrong.
Well,
I keep saying
there were
these
so
things
many
that were true
inside
about you for
jokes.
So many years.
Like there's this whole little community of things that I don't get, and there's nothing worse for me than feeling like I'm showing up to a party late because parties are hard for me in the first place. And so if I feel like everyone has already bonded and I'm walking in to disrupt the party, anyways, I would, however, have loved to gone to that wedding. That feels
fun.
A little different.
It was fun. It was fun. You weren't invited, and actually, neither was I for a long time. So I don't know if I've told this part of the story. I don't think I have. So there's going to be a lot of stories from.
Did you invite yourself to his wedding?
I did not. I was invited. I wasn't aware I was invited, and you'll love this part of the story.
Okay.
Because for once, I was the old curmudgeon that didn't understand technology.
I am here for this.
And it's partially a don't understand, and partially kind of like you, I'm willing myself to not understand this.
Okay.
I have made a decision.
I don't want to understand it. Yeah.
That you're like, I don't know social media.
I'm just going to ask
Taylor. I don't know what
Taylor.
works on social media. It's kind of like that, like a willful ignorance. And my willful ignorance comes through Discord. You even know what Discord is? Have you ever?
Yeah, okay. I do.
So it's
an app, yes?
An app. It's like it's a social networking app. So like, there's like social media, right? Mm-hmm. It's like, it's for groups to get together and talk. It's primarily for gaming stuff. So like you can get in, there's servers and you can talk to other people and play games. But then it became more and all this kind of stuff. I hate it.
Okay.
I hate the app.
Oh.
I think it's very dumb.
Okay.
That, I'm in I used to be in like 10 groups. Now I'm in like 4.
Okay.
And they're all muted all the time.
Well, so you do use Discord, you just don't like it
when I have to. When I am required to.
Okay.
I will use Discord when somebody's like, "Hey, hop in the chat." I'm like, "Can't we just chat over Xbox?" No, let's use Discord. Okay, so we have to use another device now. Fantastic.
Okay.
I don't like it because other things work.
Feels cumbersome.
Yeah, exactly. And it's just notification all the time. Blah, blah, blah. It's annoying. There's like every channel. Like if I subscribe to a channel on YouTube and I hit the little bell thing, I will get videos from that YouTube channel.
Yeah.
If you subscribe to a Discord, there's 1,000 different channels inside the channel, and you get notifications anytime some rando you have to go through and like mute all of them or mute. It's just annoying.
Sounds terrible.
So I went and I played Game of Favorites. So for those of you who don't know, Game of Favorites, it's a Catholic young adult community that Peter started, and Peter got married to Yenza, who's another Twitch person who has become a part of the show the last couple of years, and that's who we were going to celebrate. And so all of this community I know. Not from in person, but from online. Like a lot of them I've played the Game of Favorites before. The first time you played, all of Forte Catholic went to go play this game. So for those of you watching right now, if you haven't watched yet, it's on YouTube. I'll put a link down in the show notes. You can go like watch us play the game. It's a lot of fun. There is a lot of like backstory and inside jokes and all sorts of things where like I'm on the outs of a lot of it because I'm there when I play and I'll pop in and be a nuisance for 5 minutes on a show and then I'll leave.
Yeah.
Right? So I was invited to this wedding. I just wasn't aware because I was mass invited like everyone in the Discord was.
Gotcha.
And it's muted. Mm-hmm. And I didn't even... who sends invites to weddings in Discord?
Apparently, Game of...
Peter's my age, and I want him to feel ashamed about this. He had a wedding with real people and a real wife.
Yeah.
And he invited through Discord.
And he only knew their handles.
Exactly. There was a lot of that this weekend. It's like, wait, who are you?
What's your name really?
I'm so-and-so on Twitch. I'm like, oh yeah, I've known you for years. What's your name? Tim? I don't know people's real names. So got invited through Discord and so I went and I played Game of Favorites like 3 or 4 months ago. And his now wife, Yenza, was like, are you coming to the wedding? And I was like, I wasn't invited. Like the bride is asking me, are you coming to the wedding? And I'm like, I mean, I would love to, but I haven't received an invitation. She's like, oh, you did. I'm like, no, I didn't. I'm sorry, sweetie. I did not receive the invitation. You might have sent it. I did not receive it. So being the kind person she is, because I'm a little extra rambunctious on that show. It's like the character I play is me with an extra 10, 20%, right?
Yeah.
And so liking me at my normal is hard. Liking me when I'm 10 to 20% more.
Well, it's funny because that was actually one of my questions as we were playing is like, is this too much? Like
from
there was
me?
No, like, well,
you're being too much and I want to pause you.
I was like, what is appropriate and what is inappropriate? What's the line here? I mean, so much.
No one knows.
A lot.
No one knows what the line is, but I've received multiple calls after I've played that I crossed it.
That it was too much.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's a moving target.
So I should not be asking you.
Yeah, exactly. But I was invited to the wedding, so I did something right, I guess. So we get invited, and Yenza, his now wife, was like, it was so kind. She reached out through Discord in a private message, which means I would receive it.
You cannot ignore it.
And she's like, hey, like she thought I felt bad. I was like, I didn't feel like I had no expectations of being invited to the wedding. So, you know what I mean? Like I only know you from the internet. Why would there was not like, I wasn't like sad. I was just playing it up. Right. And she's like, we don't want you to feel bad. We're like, we did invite you. And she was like, well, it's full right now. We have a limited number, but if it opens up, we'll let you know. And like 2 days later, she's like, somebody couldn't come. Y'all are welcome to come. And we went. So like, that's how we went. And it was, Sam and I drove up to Dallas. I mentioned this last week's show 2 weeks ago. Drove up. I did a speaking engagement in Dallas. It went really well. I really enjoyed it. It was the one for the moms group that you were making fun of before. You're like, why are you going to speak to a moms group?
Yeah.
And I was like,
how did that happen?
Me.
Yeah.
Maybe they thought I was a girl Taylor. But they had pictures, so
okay. Well, that's not confusing.
It went really well. We it's a really nice part of Dallas. Sam and I stayed the night there. Like it was really good. Next day we fly, and this was Sam and I's first time flying together in 11 years.
Oh wow!
And it was good. We watched a movie on the way there, The Marvels, which is a Marvel movie, which like we were told was terrible, and I didn't like the original Captain Marvel movie, so I didn't have high expectations for myself, and it got bad reviews. So like we didn't go watch it in the theaters, but like it came out on Disney Plus. We're on a plane, let's watch it.
Yeah,
we loved it.
How
it was
great!
It was like a good.
I'm surprised you didn't see it. That's great.
There were reasons. One, Brie Larson's terrible as Captain Marvel. She just even after this movie, she's terrible.
Okay.
But the thing that made us love this movie is that Miss Marvel, the newer superhero, her TV show just came out a year ago. Just adorable.
Who is it?
Miss Marvel is played by, her last name is Villani.
Okay.
I think it's Aman Villani. I think that's her name. She's just so endearing. She captures, like somebody said that she's like, she doesn't play Spider-Man. She plays more like a Captain Marvel character, but she's like Spider-Man in that he's just endearing and a teenager, and just like she's just sweet,
easy to root for,
funny, and so like this movie felt a lot more like her show than like the last Captain Marvel movie. So she was just great. The movie was a lot funnier. Like we just really enjoyed it. And I think part of it was like we had low expectations. So we were like, oh, it far exceeded our expectations, but it was a good movie. We actually really liked it. So we had a great time flying together. Sam and I got to North Carolina. We're in Greensboro, North Carolina. And I had done some research. When you're going to travel somewhere, do you like research like things to do, restaurants?
I do.
That sort of thing. Okay.
Yeah.
So I had come down to 3 restaurants. We ended up going to 2 of them. And the restaurant we went to the first night was like, this was like our Valentine's trip.
Sure.
Because like, we went the weekend before Valentine's, but this was like we're here. Like we don't need a babysitter. Like we have a permanent, my parents came and watched the kids so that we were able to do this. So we like went and had our Valentine's date that night. Like, the whole trip was Valentine's, but that was our big money.
Yes.
Go to a fancy place, get dressed up. Best appetizers I've ever had in my life.
What was it?
Oh man. I don't know if I'm alone in this, but I know I feel really stupid about it.
Okay.
Garlic bread. You've had this, yes?
Sure.
I've eaten many a garlic bread in my life. Most of my waistline is from garlic bread. Love garlic bread. My whole life, I would look at garlic bread, and we typically would get like not the microwave, but like you put it you just take it out, you put it in the oven. It's frozen. It's pre-made, right?
Yeah.
So in my mind, it's bread and it's butter. The only other thing on there is those little green pieces.
Sure.
Garlic. That's how I'm thinking about this.
Garlic is not green, but
34 years though. But you can see, I'm stupid, but you can see how I came to this conclusion.
Okay.
Bread.
Okay.
Butter.
Yeah. And then the green stuff.
And they're like, it's not buttered bread. It's
garlic bread.
So
and so that's the
green.
Yeah. Yep. Okay.
So we ordered these appetizers, but one of the things that came with the appetizers was bread, salted butter, and clearly not green garlic. Roasted garlic. Have you ever roasted garlic yourself?
Not myself.
Have you had it?
Yes.
I would murder you if you got between me and roasted garlic. It's one of the greatest things I've ever eaten in my life.
Really?
So salted butter, it was on warm bread, so it melted. And essentially this roasted garlic, they had cut off like the top of it. They roasted it like in the clove.
So it's like the whole clove.
The whole thing. And you would just like spoon it out, fork it out.
Yeah.
And it's
mushy.
Like it was butter. So we would essentially like, a piece of bread, these little pieces of bread are like 2 bites. So I put like half of the garlic on one side. I took that first bite and I was like, this might be what heaven is.
Is right.
If I don't make it, I tasted it.
Wow.
Like this is it. So I learned something.
Yes.
By going to a fancy restaurant.
That it's not parsley.
Not little. Yeah, that's probably what that was. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Big fan of roasted garlic. People have talked about it for...
Blows parsley out of the water.
People have talked about roasted garlic for years. And I'm like, how do you roast leaves? How is that? That doesn't sound great. And you take all the juices out of it, So I learned something. We also had a baked brie. Ironically enough, we're just talking about Brie Larson.
Delicious.
We had a baked brie. And I've had baked brie before. At a semi-fancy restaurant, but this is a very fancy restaurant. So it had like the like the breading on the outside, but when you
Yeah.
cut into it, it just completely
Just-
like melted out.
Yeah.
It had like a peach jam.
I was
on it.
wondering if
Oh
they
my
had it
gosh,
like any
man.
kind of glaze or
So good. And then we had French onion soup, which is another thing that,
delicious.
you know, if you get, like my kid's starving, I'd give him any of my food. But if all
Not
we had
that.
left was French onion, I'd be like,
Nice. I'm sorry.
I'm so sorry. And they'd be like, I don't like onions.
Yeah, of course.
But just, and then I had duck for dinner.
Duck.
Just a very, very good
I'm
time.
so happy for y'all. Can I tell you something about me and garlic?
Sure.
Okay. Apparently, I process it strangely,
Me
but
too, in my mind.
I stink really bad. So I went to a friend's birthday party and she had gone all out. It was her 40th. We rode in a limo like to Houston to go to her favorite restaurant and then rode back. When I walked in the door, Seth was like, "Oh, babe, I don't know how to tell you this. You smell horrible."
Oh, I see. There were two options for that. Either you smelled horrible, or he was like, "Can I lick you?"
No, yeah,
Like,
well,
did you smell like the garlic?
No, he was like, I can't figure. He was like, there was no way. I thought when I first smelled it, there was no way that was coming from you. And I said, well, what is it? What's it like? And he was like, meaty BO. And I'm
Yeah.
like, that's horrible. And he was like, babe, like if you rode in a limo with these people, like you need to kind of call and apologize.
I'm sorry I was there.
So
I apologize for my simple presence.
unless sometimes it's worth it and I'm just like going to be alone that night.
This one would have been worth it.
Yeah.
I promise.
And it's like, I'm just going to smell, babe. And he's always down
If you
with
were
it. And he's
us,
like, okay.
We could have added 2 rooms to the room we had.
Right.
One for you, one
Yes,
for Seth.
yeah.
And we could have all enjoyed
Yeah.
this.
Now, Seth is a super sensor. Like he has a very sensitive, yeah.
Oh, Seth is sensitive.
When it comes to his senses. Okay, anyways, proceed. So lovely dinner.
Lovely dinner. And so the next day was the wedding. And so we kind of had like our date night on Friday. Saturday, we wake up, we walk down, have a nice brunch. It's actually owned by the same people that they own a few fancy restaurants and a few fancy hotels. And like the hotel we stayed at was really nice. It's called Hotel
Denim.
Which like I knew that when I booked it. Like I have eyes, I could read it.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't realize how into it they were.
Oh.
The whole hotel.
Denim. So like walls, denim, paintings of apparently people who had to do with jeans. I think one of them might have been Levi Strauss. Yeah.
Apparently jeans were a big thing in Greensboro, North Carolina. I think they're like the mecca of the jean world. They call it Jeansboro instead of Greensboro.
Okay.
Very, very
How
interesting.
about that? I did not know.
Jeans everywhere. So just like cut off mannequins, like, so only bottom halves, there's paintings of jeans. There's one in the bathroom where it's a painting of I think a woman, someone with womanly legs with like jeans around their ankles, like they're going to the bathroom. Just jeans everywhere. Not the pillows we slept on, but like the fancy pillow that they put.
Decorative, all denim.
All jeans.
Yeah.
The robe, Sam loved the robe.
What?
Made 100% from denim. It was like comfortable. She loved it. It was like soft denim, right? So the whole thing, they're like super into it. And it was a very nice hotel and we enjoyed it. So the next day we go to the wedding and this is the first time that I'm going to meet people.
Yeah.
That it was a dual confusion. Meaning there are a lot of people there that I have interacted with that I never knew their real name.
Have you seen their face?
Some of them. So there's like this one category. Like people that I have played Game of Favorites with.
Yes.
Like I have memories with. I've seen their face.
Yes.
It's more than just like seeing like you see like somebody's profile picture and you're like, maybe you'll remember that face is that name. But like I've interacted with some of these people. I've
understand their sense of humor, maybe.
Right, exactly. And there's this understanding that they know who I am because they've also interacted with me and I've interacted with them. So like there's that kind of that basic understanding. So there was a lot of that. So a lot of great ladies, got a lot of great guys, a priest, Father Mark, like these people that I've played with that like I know them, I've interacted with them, never met them in person. And like I've had this experience before, but typically it was at like a conference, like a focus conference or something, a Seek conference, where like But I'm going with like 5 or 6 people that I know.
Right.
I know
Yes.
I'm going to see 20 other
Right.
people that I've met in person before, and then a bunch of internet people.
Yes. People can fill in the blanks. You're just going with Sam. She's not on all of your platforms. Yeah.
So this one was interesting because there were 3 people in this room that I had met before. My wife, who came with me, and 2 other people that I had met
in person.
One of which I only met last month in Ireland.
Right. Wow.
He flew over to the wedding. So I didn't know anybody. So I was like, I knew I was going to know a few people. So there's that group, the group that like I've interacted with. But then there's this other group where I would have interacted with them in a different way. Meaning while people are watching Game of Favorites, they can there's a chat, like a live chat, just like there's a live chat on like a YouTube live video or whatever.
Yes.
Facebook Live, that sort of thing. So I know them by their handles, like what you were mentioning earlier. But like, I don't know their real name. I don't know anything about them. And that becomes this weird scenario of like,
married?
You have watched me. Yeah, no idea.
No clue.
It's like, you've watched me on Game of Favorites. So you've interacted with me. And I might have even like tried to say something funny in response to like at so-and-so, right?
Yeah.
So we've interacted, but I have no idea what you look like. I don't know anything about you. So I was like, going into it, I was like, this could be weird.
Yeah.
Part of this could be weird, right? Or awkward, right? And then there was a third group that I wasn't planning on, which was like people who know who I am because of my show. Never happens. Never, ever, ever happens.
Yeah.
Like, even when I go to big conferences, it's like, oh, you're Taylor and I'm friends with Father Anthony, so I kind of know who you are.
Okay.
Like that's
yeah.
But like both at the wedding and like one of the strangest experiences I've ever had. We're just at the church where the wedding was, and this guy walked down who had nothing to do with the wedding. He's married to the person who sang at the wedding, but they're just like they live there locally. She works as the music director at the parish.
Oh, okay.
And he's like, I know who you are. And I'm like, never happened. I just had to travel to Greensboro, North Carolina for this to happen. So there's these 3 groups, and I thought it was going to be weird, and it just simply wasn't.
Oh, cool.
It was so pleasant, like meeting all of these people. Some people who I've like interacted with more, some people I've interacted with less, but like everyone else, not everybody, a lot of people were in the same boat.
Yeah.
So it was this like, and there were like very few people from local. The majority of people were people like me
flew
in from all over the country.
On a chance.
And it was this Catholic young adult community, and it was so cool.
That's really cool.
To be in this group where it's like, we're all tied together because of Peter, whose wedding we were celebrating.
Yeah.
And we just had a great time. We had a great time at the party. We had a great time at the mass, the wedding mass. We had a great time. The next morning, we all got together and went to Sunday mass together. We went to brunch together after with 22 people at brunch. Like, we took over the restaurant.
Wow.
Like, it was just so much fun to interact with essentially all of those groups of people.
Yeah.
It was a blast.
That was my favorite memory of my own wedding, was how much our friends enjoyed each other. It was because if you think about it, really, there's only 2 times that people who love you all come together.
And one
of them, you're dead.
Yeah.
So my bridesmaids, because I had lived in Japan, I had, there were, well, and then like most people, there's high school friends, there's college friends, and then this Japan crowd. And so for all of those worlds to collide and then them truly enjoy one another, so much so that the bridesmaids, I had to like tell them to be quiet the night before my wedding because like they were having a blast with each other. And as much as it delighted me, I'm like, I have got to get some sleep before this wedding.
There's going to be pictures for a while.
But they were like planning reunions. I mean, without me, which again, like made my heart soar. To see that there is something, and I would imagine this is true, but there is something fundamental or something foundational that you all share that brought you to this place in the first place, whether it's a hopefulness. I mean, think about how hopeful you have to be to say, hey, I've never met, but I'm going to spend, a lot of time and money, to go and give this a shot. But there's something fundamental about all of you that you share for y'all to enjoy each other, for it to work so well,
Right.
I guess.
Yeah. And like the things that were tying us together were Catholicism.
Yep.
Comedy, entertainment.
Yeah.
Like that's what this was all about. So it's like we all fit. Like it all fit really well together. So yeah, it was just really fun. The day after the wedding, we like I mentioned, we went to mass together, went to brunch together, and then a big group got a VRBO so they could all. Speaking of BO, that's the second time we mentioned BO today. They got a VRBO and they invited us over to watch the Super Bowl. So we ended up like going to a Super Bowl party in a state we don't live in.
Yeah,
with all these people that
with new friends.
It was just great, and we typically host a Super Bowl party, so we thought it was going to be weird for us because we had decided we were just going to watch it in the hotel because I didn't want to go to a bar and have it be ruined by randos, right?
Sure.
But then we got invited to this, and I was like, oh yeah. I mentioned that we went to 2 of the 3 of the restaurants that we wanted to go to. The other one we were going to go to was another brunch restaurant, but they couldn't accommodate 22 people. So we just made the decision to go with friends, and like, great decision, just a great decision. So, it got me. So anytime I go to a wedding, it gets me thinking about mine. Like it's just like, oh, it's
sure.
Just, especially when Sam's there. It's like, oh, like I remember this, right? Like, so like, when I see their first dance, I think of our first dance. When I see, the mass. So one of the big moments is whenever the doors open and the bride starts walking down. I think most people black out about most of their wedding. Yeah. Is that a moment you remember, or was it just so crazy that you don't remember? You are about to walk down the aisle, the doors open, and you're walking towards Super Sensor.
Definitely remember.
Okay.
Yeah.
What do you remember?
I wish that I had it to do over again because I wish that I would have been more.
There's an opportunity. It just takes some paperwork.
Same person, same circumstances, but more centered, like a little more present, a little less critical. So
the doors open, you went, ew.
Well, I was just so nervous, and I just wish I always say that I wish I would have been born 40. Like something happened at 40 that made me quit caring so much about what everyone else thought. I'm like, that's your business. I don't know. And so to wake up with that kind of wisdom of this is going to happen once and I'm going to enjoy it. So I was nervous. I remember being afraid I was going to trip over my dress. Like you try on a dress, but you don't practice walking in it. Like that's not really. And so it was harder to walk in than I thought. Like my feet didn't move that well. And so I was like distracted by that. My dad was a nervous wreck. And so that wasn't that helpful. And then I don't know. I was just, you've been thinking about this day since you were 4. And I didn't look how I thought I would look. Like I had someone else do my makeup and that never goes well. I've learned that by 40. Like I'm the only one I want to do my makeup. Anyways, so there were just things that were distracting me. Truth is to be honest. Yeah.
Did Super Sensor cry?
So the bride is really far away. Okay. And so we don't necessarily know. And he's usually dried it up by the time that we get there. And so you really are relying on video and camera. And so Seth is a pretty stoic guy. So I think that he teared up, but he did not cry.
I always remember that moment because I teared up and cried at the rehearsal. She wasn't even dressed up. Like she was just, she looked nice.
Yeah.
But, in the wedding dress, and the doors open, we're practicing. I'm like, oh my God, that was the moment. So the next day I was like, hey, I was kind of ready for it. I was like, I got my cry out, One of the other things one thing that we really liked about this wedding party, it was I always forget the reception. I always get reception rehearsal mixed up. At the reception, because they're game show people, like they host game shows. Like we played a game. It was like one of those like you have a person's name, you're trying to get them to say a word, and if they say it, they're dead. So like we're playing a game similar to another game that they play on the channel at the reception.
How fun!
And that was fun. But like the highlight for me, especially because I'm a person that hates dancing, and like wedding parties are typically 5-6 hours of dancing.
Of course,
and I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm gonna go sit over there.
I'm
and
gonna
have
sit in this
conversations with
corner
human
and-
beings
yeah.
because that's what I like to do.
Yeah.
You know. So there was dancing for about an hour, and then they opened it up for karaoke.
No.
And this is all these people. There's a lot of there is a musical element to Game of Favorites where like the main game isn't a musical thing, but like there's a Christmas party every year, and like I have performed Christmas carols on the Christmas show, and like people from the community. It's like we know that there are people who can sing like, in this community, and we're having a blast.
Oh my gosh.
We did it for hours, and it was one of those things where like people signed up and they do a few, and then they go back to dancing, and then they go back. So for me, even as a person that didn't like dancing, it's like it made me want to stay out there more.
Sure.
Because like we're up there supporting people, like giving a concert.
Great.
That's
a great
It was
idea.
one of the more fun receptions I've been to.
That sounds like a
just
blast.
because one, the mingling was fun because it's like I'm going to have conversations. Like it's like if you're at a wedding, it's like I talk to you all the time. I'm going to go over there and talk to her. You know. But here it's like, I've never talked to any of these people. So we're just having fun moving around. It was just a blast. So I don't know. We're super thankful for the trip. We're super thankful for like, my parents for coming to watch the kids so that we could we added a couple of, we had some dates on Thursday and Friday and then, a Super Bowl party Sunday and the wedding Saturday. Like it was just a great trip and we're super, super, super thankful for it.
Yeah. Yeah. Good. I'm glad y'all were able to get away.
Yeah.
It's important.
Yeah. It was really nice. Okay. I want to talk about the next morning that didn't necessarily have to do anything with the wedding. Just a lot of the wedding people were there because we all, not all of us, a big group of us decided to just go back to mass at the same church that we had the wedding at 11 o'clock the next morning. And then we'd all go out to brunch together. Okay, fine. We're all just going to go hang out. This is great. One of the very pleasant surprises right at the beginning of mass or right before mass is we go sit down. We're sitting behind a group of the people from the show. It's just cool to like go to a mass in another state and like we were a fourth of the people at mass. The like 30 or 40 of us, like, small parish. And like legitimately we were a fourth of the parish, which is like, I bet they were like, why are all these people in our seats?
Yeah.
Like, where'd they come from?
Right.
But one note about the mass the day before, which was cool. I forgot about it.
The wedding mass?
The wedding mass.
Uh-huh.
It was a pretty small wedding. I'm just used to big Texas weddings, big family weddings. So it's like you're smaller than what I'm used to. So there was maybe, 100 people in this church.
Mm-hmm.
That seats probably 400. But because of the music thing and like everybody there is like into their faith, like we were singing like, Oh God, Beyond All Praising. And like I got goosebumps. It sounded like there were 500 people. In
wow.
And it was just so cool. Cause like how often, like I'm loud. So typically at church, I'm not belting out.
Sure.
In choir. I'm
yeah.
Let us sing of Christ our Savior. I'm like singing along because like, one, if I belt it out, it's like, oh, why are you trying to show up the musician?
Yeah.
Or people just staring at me. Like it just becomes a weird thing. So I'm kind of mumbling. Or I'll do the like super deep voice. Let us sing of Christ. That's when I go to morning mass, But like I was free to fully participate, which is hard for me as a loud person.
Yeah.
But like everyone around me was singing, belting it out. So I'm like, I'm doing it now too.
Yeah, cool.
Like by the end, we were singing in harmonies. Like it was just so cool. So just a cool random note about the mass. So
these are your people.
Yeah, it was awesome. Beautiful wedding mass. I have some thoughts about the next Sunday mass.
Okay. Same church?
Same church.
Yeah.
So the beautiful thing that happened, the beautiful unexpected thing that happened is, typically, the wedding couple goes away on their wedding night. Okay, whatever. But then you typically don't see them again.
Right.
Like it was like a rare and special thing after my sister got married. I think I told this story in the show 5-6 months ago when she got married. Like she asked for us to come to mass with them the next morning, like meaning me, my wife, and my kids, just because like my kids are the only grandkids to my parents, the only nephews and nieces to my sisters. So she wanted to spend some time with them because she was busy the rest of the weekend getting married.
Yes.
So cool special thing, and we saw Peter and Yenza leave, and we were just like, "That's it, go do your married thing, right?"
Sure.
Next morning, we're sitting there behind this group that we know from the wedding, and we're kneeling there. And then, so we had just gotten there. We got there, knelt down. My wife prays for like 5 minutes. I'm like, "Hello," and then I sit down. Like, "Hello, God, how are you?" I'll be here for a while. We'll continue talking. I don't think I need to kneel much longer, but whatever. That's just a personal thing. And I sit down, and right as I'm sitting down, Peter and Yenza are sitting right next to me. I'm like, oh, this is so sweet, you know?
Yeah.
And I didn't mention it. I had never met Peter in person.
Oh my gosh.
We've talked for hours on his show.
Yeah.
He's been on this show.
I feel like y'all know each other.
We've Zoomed. He's done a project. Like, we've talked off camera and on camera quite a bit, just never in person. So I never met him as a single person. First time I met him was at the reception.
Yeah.
Like, hey, you did it. Congratulations. You know, just kind of funny. I never knew single Peter. The single Peters from the internet. Married Peter's real. So they said it was just so sweet just to be able to like sit with them and experience Mass with them, because like I mentioned, like I'm a little crazy on his show, but it's like I was a normal person. Like I was me, but like
you didn't have a lobotomy, but you were.
And like at Mass, I'm not screaming
Sure.
and yelling, you know, all this kind of stuff. So it's just like nice to be like a normal human being next to all these people, right? So, but then some red flags started going up about this Mass.
Okay. Like, not Peter.
Not Peter. Not Peter. Yenza left in the middle and didn't come back. No, I'm just kidding. Red flags started going up about this Mass. One of which was being, again, beautiful music. Similar musicians, I think, to the day before. Just beautiful. Like, it takes a lot. Usually when I travel, I come on here and I'm complaining about the music because it sucks.
Yes.
That's a very typical Forte Catholic thing.
Yes.
Not the case here.
Okay.
Incredible musicians. Actually, the musician the night before, like super beautiful operatic voice. We looked up at like her and the organ because we knew that she was up there. She has a baby slung on her shoulder the whole time.
Yeah.
So she's singing like legitimately she could sing in the opera.
Yeah.
And I'm like, this is so impressive. So she's singing. Next day, beautiful music. There's just one problem. We sang the first verse, and we sang the second verse. Typically, those are the options on Sunday morning.
Okay.
One verse, maybe two if they're doing incense. We get through 3 verses.
This is procession. This is like...
Oh, no. Specifically not as procession, and that was the issue. It's the processional song. No one's processing.
But no.
I look back.
Was there a mishap?
I don't think so.
Yeah.
This seemed... I thought it was a mishap, and then I saw the rest of the Mass. I'm like, I think they planned this.
Yeah.
Because
this
everything
is how they
was
roll
elongated throughout the day at Mass. So
hold on. You did first verse, second verse.
First verse, second verse, third verse, fourth verse. By this point, I'm sitting in like the middle of the church, and I'm like, typically there's a procession at this point. Fourth verse happens.
Yeah.
I'm sitting in the right side of the church. So there's the main aisle to my left and like the side aisle to my right. Side aisle. Internet joke for you. No one else will get that. Maybe 3 people will be like, hey, I liked that side aisle joke. Okay. I see the altar servers and the priests and everything walking towards the back by me. I'm like, what are we doing? What are we doing? They go to the back of church. We start the 6th and final verse. This is one of those, like, I forget which song it was, but it's a song like "Oh God Be All Praising," where like you can mostly sing the first verse without the book.
Yeah.
And then if we do the second book, you're like, okay, I need the second verse. I need the book. And like, I didn't know 6 verses existed.
I didn't even know. Right.
3 through 6. I'm not sure. So we're singing them, and there's like strange old English that we're trying to figure out. You know?
Yeah.
They put like everybody into one note, and it's like, I don't know how to sing this. You know. 6 verses. They start processing.
Wow.
So we've been singing this song a while.
Yeah.
And then they get to the altar. They incense for a solid 4 minutes while the organ's just playing. And then she's like, I guess we'll sing the first verse again. We sing that again. There's another long instrumental. He's still up there incensing.
No, is this because they love her voice? Like, are they just, I mean, it was what's happening?
I don't
think?
know.
Yeah. Okay.
I cannot look at this situation and understand it.
Okay.
And I am
Now, Peter is sitting next to you. Is this typical?
No. I don't know if it's typical for this parish.
That's what I mean. That's what I mean.
I'm not sure.
Okay.
I didn't talk to him specifically about it. I talked to everybody else about it after Mass, and they were like, there were 2 talking points from this Mass. The opening hymn and the other reason why we were all there for an hour and a half.
Hour and a half. Because
we get to the homily, which will be here on out considered the homilies. Over 30 minutes.
Oh, yeah.
On a Sunday.
Yeah.
And here's the thing. There were 6 homilies.
Because he just like crammed a bunch of lessons into one. Yeah.
6 solidly distinct homilies.
Were they good?
It wasn't one homily with 6 points. It wasn't one homily with 3 points, which is pretty typical, right? Like here's the main 3 things. What everybody, how to give a speech.
Some structure,
right?
Yeah.
No, it was 6 different homilies. And here's the thing. There were good homilies.
Yeah.
But there were 6 of them.
Maybe he was visiting and he really wanted to cram all his wisdom.
He's there all the time. So there was a great homily about Lourdes. It was Our Lady of Lourdes was the feast of that day. There was a great homily about one of the readings. About 30 minutes later, he came back to one of the other readings. There was a homily about that. There was a homily about another Marian apparition. There was a homily about suffering and family members dying. I think he was going through a lot. That was my takeaway. I don't think this was the plan.
How nice of you to be there for him.
I was. We were all there for him. There was a lot of people there for him for a long time.
Oh my gosh.
Maybe this is all normal. But you know who it was not normal for?
Yeah.
A fourth of the church.
Right.
Our crew.
Right.
We were all like, boy, after the end. That was something, wasn't it? So we had 6 homilies. It got me thinking. You're a convert.
I am.
You've had some thoughts about this mass thing. Any strange mass stories from you?
Well, first of all, a 30-minute homily in a 30-minute sermon in a Protestant gathering space is totally normal.
They're also trained to do mostly that.
Correct.
Protestant pastors are primarily trained for pastoral care.
Yes.
And preaching.
Yes.
Those are the 2 primary things. Obviously, there's other things. Priests are primarily trained for theology and sacraments.
Correct.
With a homiletics class or 2.
Yeah.
It's kind of a tech-odd thing. So there's a reason for that.
Yes.
30 minutes at a Protestant church and 30 minutes at a Catholic church.
2 different
usually
things.
2 vastly different
Yeah,
things.
we would have our notes out. Like we were learning.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it was
I
a
had my
Bible
notes
study.
out too. It's so prep. I looked at Peter after the 6th homily ended. He slept through homily 3 through 5. It was I just let him. I looked at him and I was like, sometimes the show prep is so easy.
Yeah.
So I was like, all I have to do is come
hilarious.
here. I haven't looked at my notes once. It's been 40 minutes of this episode.
Yeah.
This is great. This is easy.
So all of my I have to get out of here mass moments are because of my children. And now that they're older, that doesn't happen quite as much unless we get the giggles together, because now my teenagers can make me laugh. And there's always that, I know you remember this from school, church, what have you, that we're not supposed to be laughing, and now you can just hang it up because we're gonna like die laughing. Like,
I have a specific story about just that here in a few minutes.
When you're not, So my teenagers can make me do that now. But when they were little, it was that they would say in their 3-year-old church whisper, which is no whisper at all, as we know.
Mom.
Yes.
Mom.
The worst one.
Why is that priest bald?
All of the, yes. So this lady gets up, sings the responsorial psalm, sits down, and my daughter says, well, at least she tried her best.
Oh, boy.
So, here's another one. The priest got up to make an announcement after, and Silas goes, oh, not again.
Oh, boy. That's how I felt all this mass. Silas is my hero.
Yeah.
He says out loud the things I say
Not
in my
again.
brain.
So
beautiful.
Yeah.
I don't want to completely bash on this church. I have 2 real insights from 2 of the homilies.
Okay.
2 of the homilies really spoke to me. One was a joke.
It was a funny joke. It was a good joke.
No, it was a joke that I formed after something he said. What
am I thinking?
You
complimenting someone's joke.
Yeah. Oh, there's a joke later that I will not be complimenting, but I will be sharing a story about. Okay. Good thing from one of the homilies. This is the joke. He was talking about Jesus because the story in the gospel was Jesus healing somebody, and he's like, "Hey, don't tell anybody." So of course, what are they going to do? They go tell everybody.
Yeah.
So here's my plea. This is the joke that I wrote, and here's my plea for this show.
Okay.
I've asked for years for people to like, comment, subscribe, leave a review.
Yeah.
Nothing.
Don't do it.
Nothing.
Don't do it.
So I'm pleading. Now my hour has not yet come. Please don't subscribe.
Don't do it.
please don't leave a comment on YouTube.
Don't ever.
Don't if you're listening in a podcast app, do not leave that app while it's still playing. Do not go to YouTube for the Catholic, subscribe. Don't do it. Don't do it. Don't leave 5 stars. Don't leave a review. Because that stuff actually it every time you leave a review, it actually hurts the show. It does nothing for us. It actually, the more you watch, the more you listen, the worse it is for our ministry and our business. So please, with everything I have, don't interact with this show.
Well done.
That's what I was creating during one of these homilies. The other really nice thing that he said, he was talking about parenting. Parents willing to take care of kids when they're sick. We were just watching, my wife and I, did you ever watch Schitt Creek?
Of course.
How do you feel when I think you and Moira are the same person?
It's the nicest thing you could ever say to me.
I thought you were going to be angry. I think that how I was saying that on Game of Favorites, I'm 10 to 20% more extra. I think Moira is like 10 to 20% a little more extra than
She's
you.
me in my truest form.
Yeah.
How can somebody be daffy and deep at the same time?
She is very difficult and lovable. And that's what you are in my life.
I will take that.
So we've been
all
watching
day.
that, and she had an episode where one of her adult daughter is sick, and she's treating it like it's like a lockdown situation. She's throwing Dayquil at her, and like will not come snuggle. And so like we had just watched that episode because I watched it during COVID. My wife and I'm rewatching it. She's watching it for the first time. We're just loving it. We're 2 seasons in. We've been watching it for a week and a half.
Yeah.
So like literally, I just watched that episode this week, and then the priest is talking about it. He's saying that like I don't want to be sick, but like one of the things that just melts my dad heart is when one of my kids is sick and they want to come snuggle. Like I'm not like extreme germaphobe, but like I have a pretty weak immune system, so like I know that if I snuggle with them in like my bed,
coming,
I'm getting sick.
Yeah.
And it's like that. So intellectually, I'm like,
yeah.
But like everything in my heart is saying, I'm going to lay with this kid. She's going to sleep in my bed. Like, it's just, that's one of the good things of me being a dad. And the priest said like, that's like God as a father wants to do that for us. Like when we're sick, when we probably shouldn't be around. Like that's when he wants to come be with us. I was just like, that's so good. That's so
that's
good.
Great.
So, okay. The final little thing from there. Funniest point of the mass. The priest is going up to give announcements after giving a 30-minute homily. So I'm imagining Silas being there, right? That's this moment. We're in the Silas moment of mass. Gets up to give an announcement. And to be fair, it's a needed announcement. He's talking about Ash Wednesday. He's like, hey, we're not having our normal daily mass times, and we're not having our afternoon confessions as normally scheduled because we have a plethora of things going on Ash Wednesday. Really normal thing to say.
Yeah.
He follows that up by saying, not a plethora of piñatas, a plethora of Ash Wednesday masses and services. You could have heard a pin drop for 5 seconds. We're all like, did he just say a plethora of piñatas? And then one of the greatest moments of me being on this human earth, Father Mark, who's with us, sitting right in front of me. 5 seconds pin drop, belly laughter.
No.
Belly.
No.
So hearing a priest who's acting like a layperson out in because he's traveling, he's just a layperson at this mass. Hearing a priest laugh at a priest joke that everyone else, it's not just that it was a joke and it was funny. We're like,
I don't get the joke.
Has there been a plethora of piñatas here before on Ash Wednesday?
Right.
Is this a thing the locals would understand? But no one in the church made a noise. And then he guffawed 5 seconds after complete silence. And then everyone in the church laughed because we're in this awkward moment of like, what the hell?
Yeah.
And then Father does that, and we're like, what the hell? Like everybody is so confused.
It keeps getting weirder.
We've all been here an hour and a half. Honestly, that moment worth everything. I know I'm supposed to sit here and say receiving Jesus was worth, an hour and 25 minutes in, I received Jesus. It was all worth. No, it was an hour and 29 minutes in when Father Mark guffawed for no reason at a joke that when we asked him about it, he doesn't get it.
He didn't know either.
He doesn't get the joke.
Nobody knows.
But there was I think it was just priest to priest and this brotherly
I'm
priest
gonna help you out right here.
You need help.
Yeah.
And I'm going to save you. And in doing so, he took the bullet. Because everyone laughed at him. And I love that it was Father Mark, and I love Father Mark. There's actually a lot of similarities between him and Father Anthony. But if that would have been Father Anthony, I could have died and gone to heaven right then. Because I was just like, a priest as a layperson making a fool of himself. Yeah. Just a beautiful moment.
That's
a beautiful moment.
A really sweet picture of brotherhood right there.
Oh, it was great. So that's the story. That's the story. But as good as the weekend was, then we had to come home, and we were not able to get home.
No.
We'll tell that story right after the break. Don't go anywhere. All right. Well, typically I record these after the show, but actually we have an ad for you, Miss Allison.
Really? That's so nice.
I feel like you're acting more like Maura.
I was just going to say, I'm going to have to perfect my Maura accent, as unhinged as it is.
So currently, Sinner Saint Sister, your podcast, is in season 11.
11, wow.
That's crazy. And it's currently out right now. Sinner Saint Sister with Allison Sullivan, available wherever you listen to podcasts, or on that YouTube channel we don't want you to go subscribe to. YouTube.com/Forte Catholic. Do not go watch Sinner Saint Sister. Brand new season. And you started off with typically there's these very, very famous people that I just have no idea who they are because they're either TikTok people or Protestant, and I don't run.
Or
neither.
very, very smart.
Yeah, and I don't mix with any of those people. You finally had a guest where I was like a little starstruck, starstruck, and like the fact it made my week. This woman who I adore and love her TikTok channel. Really? I made her laugh.
You did.
And the fact that she laughed at something I said, I'm good for the next 3 months.
It's a genuine chuckle.
I'm good. So tell us about her. Tell us about your other guest this season.
So it started off with Eve Rodsky. You are discussing Sheena Milwani, the other half of Trid, the real Indian dad, TikTok sensation.
Incredible. 10 million followers on TikTok.
Internet superstars. And then we're following that up with Kayla Craig. We have a lot of other neat surprises in the works. Yeah. So it's a great season.
I'm really enjoying it. And I have to listen to it. And I'm working. And I'm like, this is great. So I think all of you should go watch and listen, or don't go watch and listen.
Don't you do it.
Sinner Saint Sister, wherever you listen to podcasts, or on our YouTube channel as well. Go check it out. Thanks. Welcome back to Forte Catholic. I'm Taylor Stroll, and that's Allison Sullivan. The welcome back thing is just so nobody went anywhere, right? And especially it's funny because typically it's like we'll be right back, and I go do a commercial by myself, so I don't waste your time. But you were just here,
right?
Dumbest welcome back we've ever done. Yeah, it's usually pretty dumb, real dumb.
This was real dumb.
So not welcome back. Go away. That's I
actually feel like we actually did have a break that time. Like I had questions. I had follow up questions.
We had a great conversation. We kept talking about other stuff I missed because I wasn't looking at my notes. You get the best of the podcast. Okay, so great trip. Tremendous trip. So much fun.
Yeah.
We get back, and one thing I didn't say about the trip, an extra bougie thing that we did. Because I talked about on the show how a few weeks ago, this whole trip was paid for by miles.
Right.
Our hotels, our flights. Yes. The only thing we had to pay for was the dinners.
Sure.
Like food and Ubers around town. And Ubers were really cheap over there. So I was like, I want to do something else fancy for my wife. Like my wife and I are traveling together, and this will come to benefit me later too. But I was like, this is the moment we're going to do it. And I also used miles, all the other miles that I had, almost all of them, to buy the Admirals Club pass. So like the airport
in the
lounge.
Airport.
Yeah. Because I mentioned for the Ireland trip, that was the first time I ever went to the airport lounge. Because when you go international, you get to go to the flagship lounge, the really fancy one. And it's one of those things where it's kind of like once you've gone, it's really hard to not want to go again. And I had the miles, and I had looked it up. They're like, it's actually better for your bang for your buck to like use miles to pay for flights or whatever. But I was like, they're there, and I didn't pay for them, so it's like we're essentially going for free. Let's go. Yeah. So we went, and even though we weren't in the flagship one, like we walked in, and my wife literally said like this was like it feels like a fancy hotel. Like it feels like we're in like the Grand Marriott or the Hilton or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And we walk in and have a great meal, free food, free drinks, free. Like they had like you could make a latte, like fancy coffees. Like it was just so very nice. So we land from Greensboro. We had, the plan was to take a super early flight, like before 7 o'clock in the morning, so we could get back, get home to our kids, because my parents, who watched the kids all weekend, they had stuff they had to get back to. So the plan the whole time was they were going to drop the kids off Monday at school and then bounce, and we were going to be home by we would have been home by like noon or 1 o'clock, probably around 1 o'clock. Then our flight got delayed, which actually was kind of nice because it gave us 2 extra hours of sleep. We found that out. Then we got to the airport and it was delayed another hour. Less good because we didn't get to sleep another hour. But we were still going to get home around 3 or 4. And so I texted one of our Jennifer, who lives like 4 doors down. Yeah, it's like, hey, can you pick up the kids from school and just bring them to your house? Like, we'll probably be home like around 3:30 or 4. Right. But to get to the school, like we would have gotten there at 3:45, 4:15, which is late for picking up the kids. You just pick them up. I'll pick them up on the way home. We'll be fine. So we go to the fancy lounge because we hadn't eaten breakfast, like because we woke up super early. We took the whole flight over here. We literally landed, like our gate was right next to the lounge. We hopped into the lounge, got breakfast real quick, bounced. We went and got picked up by like the parking spot, which is paid parking or whatever. They pick you up in a shuttle and they take you over there. We get over to our car, and by this point, it's like right around noon. So we would have gotten home at 3 o'clock. Like we could have maybe even picked up our kids. Yeah. Like we were ahead of schedule. So I turn on my car. My car is a Toyota Prius. Like that's what I've been driving for years now, and it's a pretty quiet car. Like it's a hybrid, so it's quiet. I turn it on, and it's normal for like 4 or 5 seconds, and like we're in a parking lot, so like we just got dropped off. It's a big parking lot. There's not many people there. So like I figured I would see if there were other people around. But so I was confused. About 5 seconds after I turned the car on, I hear like it's a big jacked up truck, no muffler, like big old, cool compensating guy. Like that's who I'm picturing.
Not supposed to sound that way.
And like our car had started shaking like it would around a big truck. But I'm looking next to me. It's like an SUV, and I'm like looking in front, kind of to the right. And I'm like, I didn't see a person. Yeah. Maybe somebody sitting in their car for 30 minutes and then decided to turn the car on right when I got in. And then I'm like, wait a second. The call's coming from inside the building. Like, it was my Prius making this noise. Yeah. And so I'm like, oh, poop. That's exactly what I said. Turned it off real quick. And I'm like, that was weird. Like Prius usually pretty quiet. It's making all this noise. I don't know what's going on. And we're in Dallas. Yeah. At a parking lot. We have to get home to our kids. I have a ministry thing Monday night, 6:15. And I'm like, uh-oh, something's wrong. But like the car drove perfectly the way up there. We zipped, got from College Station to Dallas, 3-hour drive. Perfect. Smooth ride. Love the car. And then I'm like, well, this is weird. And then we look it up. We're like, there's a Toyota dealership 6 minutes down the road. We could just take it over there. And I'm like, I don't even know if it'll drive. Right. Like, it's making the noise. So I just kind of pulled out. We're in a parking lot where there's kind of an open, like where you would learn to drive. Yeah. There's nobody there. So I just like putzing around, and I'm like, it seems like it's having trouble shifting gears, but I can get up to like in the parking lot, I got up to like 35, 40, which like, if I can just drive on the median, it's a 6-minute drive. It's going to be a 12-minute drive, but I can get there, So after a few minutes of testing it out, I was like, I think we can get there. Cause I'm like, how do you get towed in a, like it's all locked,
Yeah.
I just don't want to deal with it. So we look it up. We drive to Toyota. We're essentially driving, we put our flashes on and we're driving over there. We get over there, and the faces that turn at the Toyota dealership when a Toyota Prius comes in sounding like
that ain't right.
Yeah, like a high school kid with his first car. Yeah. And they're like, what? And I go and I'm like, hey, this just started. We've been gone for 4 days. We haven't started it. But it's only been 4 days. It's not like it was an abandoned car, Right. And he was like, we'll take it back, but I'm pretty sure I know what's going on. I'm like, what? He's like, I think your catalytic converter got stolen. And I'm like, I don't know what a catalytic converter is. Yeah. But I know that they get stolen. Yes, like that's what I know. That's what I know about them. So I'm like, okay. So now I'm like scrambling. Yeah. So I'm like, okay, there's an issue clearly. it's missing a part, which I think is mostly for emissions, but it definitely affected how the car drove. I don't know. Apparently some other parts were stolen too, some gaskets and all these other fancy words that I don't understand. So we drop it off, and immediately I'm like, there's no way. There's just no, like, we've been robbed. There's no way we're getting home in that car today. Just simply no way. So at that point, I'm calling, I'm texting Jennifer. I'm like, hey, like, you're going to need to keep home for a while. Like, we're getting home tonight. I'm coming home tonight. I promised my kids I'd get home, and I'm leading a ministry event for the parish.
Right.
Like, I'm giving the talk. Like, I've never not been there. Like, the foundation's my baby. Yes. Like, they could have handled it, but I've never not been there. So it's like weird for me. Like, the night would have been fine if I wasn't there, but like Jennifer would have had to give the talk from next week that she planned, all this stuff. Right. And all this was on the table at some point. And finally, I'm just like, I'm getting a rental car and leaving. Like, because we were waiting to get a diagnostic. Yeah. And then, but at some point I was like, I'm just going to leave. I have to leave. Yeah. I have to get home to my kids. I have to get home to this ministry event. I go and I talk to the guy. We wait for like an hour 15. And I go and I talk to the guy, and he had just gotten the diagnostic. He's like, yeah, it's what I thought. Catalytic converter, gaskets, a couple other parts were stripped. He's like, people do it. It's worth money. It's why they do it. And apparently this is the craziest thing. Because like, we're parked next to Corvettes and fancy Mazdas and like, Teslas and all this stuff, right? I did some Googling in the hour 15 I was waiting. Catalytic converters are being stolen at phenomenal rates, especially since COVID. It's become a pastime for people. A great way to make money. Yeah. It's precious metals. They can sell them, all this kind of stuff, right? Number one car model to go after. Toyota Prius. I didn't think if you put my car in a lot, my 2009 Toyota Prius, I didn't think it would be the number one culprit to be robbed. Yeah. I thought it'd be the Tesla or maybe not the Tesla. They have cameras and stuff, but like the Mercedes or the BMWs or nope. My little Prius.
Just going to shimmy under that little tiny Prius.
Exactly. And, I don't know how they did it and whatever. Right. So it gets stolen. We're talking to them. I'm calling my insurance agent. My insurance agent is still in Lake Jackson, where I grew up. I've been with this insurance agent since I started driving at 15, right? He's the guy that runs it. Used to be a Catholic youth minister, was a leader in Catholic youth minister in the nation, is a mentor of mine, great friend. Like he's, so I call his office, and they always treat me really well, because I think they'll find out if they, I'll call the boss. I have his cell phone number. So they always treat me really well, all this kind of stuff, right? So the lady's helping me out, and she's like, it's covered. Like, you're fine. It's covered. You have comprehensive. She was like, I'm not sure if you have like rental coverage to cover the rental. I'm like, I'll pay for the rental to get home. I don't care. It's $80. I'll drive home. You know? But she's like, I don't know if you have it. And she calls back. She's like, no, the whole car had to be stolen for you to have rental. I was like, oh, so if they steal parts that make it undrivable and I don't have a car, nothing. But if they stole the whole car, so I was like, maybe I should just steal the car.
Right. I know. Come to find out.
Car's not here, actually. Yeah. Exactly. So insurance is coming. Ultimately, it'll be fine. So we get home. Like that, the stressful thing was just getting home. Yeah. You walk over to the rental car place, get a rental car. Nice car. We're because of my airline miles thing, they actually have a partnership with Avis. So like, I've never rented a car, but I'm like, Avis Preferred Plus, Premier or whatever. So they give me a nice car, drive it home. I actually dropped it off this morning before you came over to record. We got home, but so ultimately, it's one of those things that like reacting to it was just like, oh, it happened. Yeah. And I just go into like, I have to get home. I'm just going to fix it.
Can't freak out about the things you can't change.
Right. It happened. Yeah. You can't do anything about it. The main decision was like, can I drive this to Toyota? Yeah. Or do I need to get it towed? I do my little test in the parking lot. I think we'll be fine. We made it. Okay. But once we get there, it's like, it happened. It's going to cost money, but we have insurance. So I think the insurance is going to cover it. Like, I'm going to have to pay $100 deductible. I paid $100 for the,
You know what would have really ticked you off though? Is if the whole weekend had been a disaster.
Right. But like,
you had such a great weekend. Yeah. You had such a great time. Roasted garlic and friendly.
Still on my tongue. Still on my body. But like it was one of those things, like, it just happened. We're going to have to deal with it. But like, I was like, no matter what, I'm getting home tonight. And it's just going to be what it is. And like, it was one of those things, like, I was literally laughing about it because, like, the Catholic inner monologue starts happening. I was like, we were robbed. And every time you hear robbed, what do you think of in a Catholic context? robbed of your joy. Don't let Satan rob you of your joy. Don't let the Allisons in your life rob you of your joy. Like, that's a thing that like people say, right? Not people, a few people, but not a lot of people. It's like, but I'm thinking about that. I was like, quite literally, like I was like, this literally can't rob me of my joy because we just had such a great weekend, right?
Yeah.
It was kind of funny to live we lived in luxury for 4 days, nice hotels, lounges, and then we come back to our Prius and it's gone. I'm like, come on, guys, come on. Yeah. But like, just it's going to handle itself. The annoying part, the residual annoying part is that because like it's crazy rampant.
Yeah.
That like the cops aren't even doing anything about it anymore because it's just happening so much that it would be their whole job.
Right.
They're not really doing anything. So insurance could cover it. But the annoying thing is because it's so rampant and like production lines, they still haven't caught up from when the production lines quit for 2 years because of COVID.
Mm-hmm.
I was legitimately told that it could be a week. It could be a year. They just had a certain car. The catalytic converter got stolen. And he's like, we just fixed it last week. It's been here a year.
Oh my gosh.
So I don't know when I'm getting my car back, but like, like our community rallied around us. Family, my community rallied around us. My mom, she texted my sister who lives here locally. She has a work car. She's going to loan us her personal car. Like, it's going to be fine.
Yeah.
Like, unless it's a year, then it won't be fine. We'll do a follow-up episode if that happens, but like,
I feel like we should take bets. How long is this going to be?
And you can do those bets in forms of financial amounts at fortecatholic.com/donate if you want to support this whole process. But it's like, I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen, but ultimately we got home. I saw my kids. I gave a talk. It was fine. Essentially, I was like, this is like, I told them like the 2-minute version of what happened. I was like, here's what my day was like. So really better like this talk. And if you don't, you better say you did.
Yeah.
Because that's where I'm coming in today, So, that's our story of our trip to North Carolina.
Well, I like that you didn't let it color the whole experience.
Yeah. No, I mean, just like, whatever. We're getting home. That was the main thing. We'll get home. We'll deal with the rest later. The insurance is handling it. And I'll have a car sometime by 2025. I don't know.
Maybe.
All right. Well, that's it.
See ya.
All right. I'm Taylor Scholl. I'll be back next month with either my car or someone else's. That's Allison Sullivan. She'll be back in a month. Did I say a month? I don't know. I'll be back next week. She'll be back in a month. Exactly what she said. See ya. Thank y'all for watching and listening today. I hope that you enjoyed it. If you did, make sure that you hit that subscribe button, leave a comment on our YouTube channel, leave a review on Apple Podcasts or wherever you are listening. We'll be back next week with another great show. Until then, love you.